Across the globe, tales abound of bizarre and horrifying creatures. Some originate from ancient myths, while others stem from modern-day sightings that people still swear by. These aren't your typical monsters. Each possesses something profoundly disturbing that lingers in your mind long after you've heard their story. Today, we're exploring the most terrifying beings you'll wish you'd never learned about. The needle is a particularly strange and unsettling legend. But where did this creature first appear?
Who's the needle? The needle is a strange and ominous cryptid that is mainly located in rural towns and small cities across the Midwest. Its intentions have shown to be harmless and passive in earlier pictures. It blends into the natural ecosystem somehow, even though nobody is really sure what kind of animal it exactly is, although due to its nature as a cryptid, it doesn't identify as being of the animal kingdom, despite having resemblances to a horse. He's deadly.
Deadly indeed. I never go out alone at night. But if I lived in a rural area, even catching a glimpse of the needle's shadow would fill me with terror. It's truly horrifying. Tall, horse-like, and unnervingly pale. My absolute worst nightmare. Now, let's shift to a creature slightly less bizarre, but just as frightening. The disturbing dog is undeniably terrifying. But for those who've never heard of it, let's delve into the story of its origin.
Have you heard the terrifying story of the girl?
Humans can lick too. Absolutely horrifying. And after hearing that, it's no surprise people are so terrified of the disturbing dog. The next creature might seem like a harmless river spirit at first glance, but beneath the folklore lies a far darker truth. Known for dragging victims underwater and playing cruel, malicious tricks, this entity is still feared to this day.
If you see this thing in the water, run the other way. This is the kappa, a yokai from Japanese folklore. Its name means river child, and they're gods or kami of the water and feared by many. They're typically described as grotesque, child-sized humanoids that look like a hybrid between a turtle and an ape. They have skin that ranges from blue to yellows and greens and often have scraggly hair on their head. Their strangest feature, however, is this dish-like indent on top of their head that's filled with water, which is the source of their power. According to the legend, they're as polite as they are dangerous. Many stories tell of them being kind and helpful. However, they're also known to mess with people given the chance. Despite their diminutive stature, kappas are incredibly strong and would frequently challenge people to sumo wrestling matches where they would rarely lose. They are also known to attack women, children, fishermen, and other animals who have entered their territory by dragging them into the water. From there, they would then try to steal your shirikodama, a mythical organ of the soul, through your backside. The good news is, if you bow to it, they're obligated to bow back, which causes the water on their head to spill, making them lose their power.
If I'm ever in Japan and spot one, I'll bow immediately. Myth or monster, it doesn't matter. The kappa still sends chills down my spine. The 𝗀𝗂𝗯𝗀𝗃𝗃 isn't just another monster tale. It's rooted in deep-seated fears within Seminole folklore. Said to shed its skin and transform into a nocturnal hunter, this entity feeds in ways too horrifying for me to even describe.
There is something evil lurking in Oklahoma. According to the folklore of the Seminole people, there is a shape-shifting vampire-like creature known as the 𝗀𝗂𝗯𝗃𝗃. And these creatures have been reported a lot around the town of 𝗀𝗂𝗯𝗃𝗃, which is pretty close to the Ouachita National Forest. But we all know there's some pretty weird stuff going on in national forests. By day, the 𝗀𝗂𝗯𝗃𝗃 looks just like you and me, but really, they're witches who practice evil magic. At night, however, they transform into these giant, undead, owl-like monsters by vomiting out their souls and internal organs, where they'll hang them on a tree so animals don't get to it. They then fly around during the night, hunting for their next victim, so that they can consume a fresh, beating human heart, which they do so by pulling it out through their victim's mouth. And if you hear a 𝗀𝗂𝗯𝗃𝗃 cry in the night, it means that you're probably doomed. There are some ways, however, to protect yourself from a 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗃, such as finding and destroying their organs out in the woods before dawn while they're out hunting. And if you can keep them from ingesting their own organs to turn back into human form before dawn as well, they'll be burned up by the sun.
They're probably the thing I fear most on this list. But what do you think about the 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃? Maybe I'm just being dramatic. This creature is perhaps the most mysterious. spoken of only in hushed whispers, described as an inhuman figure standing silently in the shadows, watching with a ghostly white face. Those who've seen it say the memory never fades. But how did it first appear?
If you hear strange animal noises coming from outside your house, be very careful. Here's why. A family in Mexico began hearing strange noises late at night coming from their farmhouse. On the next day, they find their animals unalived by what seemed like an animal attack. And after a few unsuccessful attempts in finding the source of the attacks, the family was forced to deal with it for the time being. But it wasn't until one night, while most of the family was away from home, the youngest sibling began to hear the horrifying sounds of the unknown creature coming from the farmhouse.
Seban está en la pieza, pero yo sentí lo alojado por acá. No sé qué está pasando, pero quiero tratar de grabar. ¡Ah! Miren eso.
You can see what looks like a pale face with glowing eyes, almost luring her into the enclosure. No further updates are available at this time, so it remains a mystery just what exactly was that.
Those images are blurry, yet still deeply unsettling. Could this really be what it looks like? I can't help but wonder why it's just standing there, staring. When will we finally get more updates on this nearly unknown creature? Now, let's return to America, where people report sightings of a monster cloaked in thick white fur, crowned with horns, and trailing a truly horrifying stench.
There is a monster living in West Virginia. For decades, residents of Boone County have spoken of an unknown and terrifying beast that lurks in the forests. Meet the sheep squatch, also known as the white thing. This cryptid is described as being the size of a bear, covered in white woolly fur. It has a long pointed head with saber-like teeth in its mouth and ram's horns on its head. Those who have seen this creature have said that it can move on 4 legs, or 2, which makes it stand well over 6 feet tall. Now, sightings of sheep squatch date back to at least the early 20th century, maybe even before, but the 1990s saw a big flap of sightings, such as one in 1994, when a former Navy seaman witnessed the sheep squatch barreling out of a forest and into a creek bed to drink some water. And in the following years, several motorists would see sheep squatch standing in the ditches on the sides of roads, and it would occasionally jump out to attack cars. One of the more harrowing encounters in recent years, however, happened in 1999 when a couple of people were camping one night in Boone County in the woods behind their house. They started to hear something large scuffling and snorting around the campsite. The campers thought it was a bear, which is concerning, but when it charged out of the darkness at them, they could see that it was something else entirely. The campers then fled immediately to their house, being chased by sheep squatch until the tree line. And as they made it inside, they could hear the beast let out this terrible scream before seeing it head back into the woods. The following morning, they went back to the campsite only to find it torn up, looking like it had been tilled for garden.
The sheep squatch, a creature both bizarre and terrifying, makes me want to swear off camping for good. There's a mystical beauty in the snow, and perhaps even in what lies beneath it.
Did you know that in 2019, deep within the frozen wilderness of Siberia, scientists uncovered something no one saw coming? Not bones, not fossils, the entire body of a prehistoric foal, over 42,000 years old, perfectly sealed in the permafrost. Its skin, mane, tail, even its eyelashes were still intact, organs untouched by decay. And, most disturbing of all, its blood was still liquid. It wasn't a fossil, it was a time capsule, a creature frozen mid-breath, as if it had simply fallen asleep beneath the ice. Foal belonged to 𝗴ecie彼𝗹, an ancient horse species, smaller, shaggier, built for the brutal winters of the Ice Age. It had wide hooves for deep snow and ran across frozen tundras now lost to history. But this one never made it back to the herd. It collapsed in the mud, froze overnight, and remained undisturbed for more than 40,000 years. When scientists examined it, they found something no one expected. Viable DNA, unspoiled bone marrow, and yes, liquid blood. Now, in a restricted lab in Yakutsk, they're entering the next phase. Cloning. They say it's just a horse, but others aren't so sure, because anything that survives for that long doesn't come back unchanged.
The idea of this creature returning is unsettling, yet it carries a strange, haunting beauty. It's best to leave the past undisturbed, to not twist this elegant horse into something dark and horrifying. This is one of the most famous creatures in the world, but let's delve deeper into the legend of this infamous being that has haunted people and their animals for centuries.
Hey, it's time to take a break and come yap with me. Today we're headed to New Mexico to talk about the chupacabra. Chupacabra is a cryptid that is known for its attack on livestock, which is how it gets its name in Spanish, the goat sucker. It eats chickens, goats, other farm animals, and pets. Now, eats may not be the entire correct word because in the legends, the chupacabra specifically drains them of all of their blood. Sightings of the chupacabra are common all across the Americas, specifically in like the southwestern United States like New Mexico, Mexico itself, and Puerto Rico. Here's where the legends get a little confusing because apparently there's two common types of chupacabra, one that is described as a reptilian type with spines running down its back, 3 to 4 feet tall with sharp fangs and glowing red eyes. This was the original description that was given from an eyewitness back in the 90s, but her account was dismissed because she had recently watched the movie Species. The other common description is one that is dog-like or maybe even kangaroo-like. This version is described as having hairless gray skin, sharp fangs coming out of its mouth, and possibly spikes along its back or even just a protruding spine. Regardless, there have been over 2,000 sightings of both versions. The dog-like version is often dismissed as like a coyote or coyote-dog hybrids that are suffering from mange and parasites, but that doesn't really explain why the livestock is missing blood specifically. Reports continue to surface to this day of chupacabra encounters, definitely keeping its legend alive.
Of course, we had to talk about the chupacabra. The goat sucker is a name it truly earned. Not only are humans unsafe around it, but so are cattle, goats, and other animals. Personally, I'm not worried about the chupacabra ever coming near me, but that doesn't make it any less eerie or terrifying. Well, it's spooky month, ponies. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Always leave your video suggestions in the comments.